Hello everyone, let's see how to perform linear regression in SQL. Before we proceed further, let's understand the entity relationship diagram. So the table it contains two tables. One is a parent table called as jockey, and other is the child table called function. The parent table disk jockey has the following attributes, where the disk jockey ID is the primary key. It's nothing but the identification number of the jockey. It has the first name, the surname of jockey, the address of the jockey, the town where the jockey resides, the county, the date of birth of jockey, the email address, the type of music performed by jockey, and availability of jockey such as weekends, all week, midweek. The attribute of the child table, that is function, contains function ID, which is the primary key of this table. It is the identification number of the event, the date when the event was organized, the type of event, the food served at the event, the number of guests who attended the event, the type of bar, the starting time of event, which has values between 1 and 24, the identification number of jockey, which is the foreign key here and is the primary key of the parent table. Then the fee charged by the jockey, the venue, the name of the venue where the event was organized, the location of the venue, and the capacity of the venue, which can hold a certain number of guests during an event. Now let's see how to perform linear regression in SQL. So the query of the SQL table holds the following statements. First, we need to train a linear regression model for which the input variable is nothing but the starting time of an event, and we need to predict the output, which is the number of guests who attended the event. And we'll input the certain values of the start time as 23, 14 and 24 and see what the model predicts as the number of guests, and then analyze if the model was inputted with a value which is interpolated or extrapolated, and then compute the correlation of the predicted value with the input value. So let's understand what is a linear regression model. So in linear regression model, we'll try to find the association of two different numerical entities. So in this example, the two numerical variables are number of guests and the start time. So firstly, we'll use regression functions such as regression slope and intercept to find the slope and intercept of the equation. So the linear regression equation is the output variable y is equal to m times x, which is the input variable. X is the input variable, here it's start time, plus intercept c. So the y is equal to m into start time plus intercept. Now we'll use the function regression slope to find the slope between the input, that is the start time, and the number of guests. Here we'll train the model with already existing data of input and output, and then during prediction we'll only use the input value for which the model has to predict the output. So now here we are training the model using the existing data records for both input and output, and we are trying to find the slope using the regression slope function and storing it as m, and we'll find the intercept using regression intercept function in SQL, which computes the intercept of the input and output, here start time and number of guests, and save it as c. We'll also find the minimum value of the start time and the maximum value of the start time in order to find if the values fed to the model were interpolated or extrapolated. And lastly, we'll also find correlation by using another function called CORR in SQL, which computes the correlation between the start time and the number of guests. So the values of the correlated output ranges between 0 and 1, where 0 depicts that the both the entities are not correlated, and 1 is the maximum value, which infers that both the entities are highly correlated or strongly correlated and are linearly associated with each other. So once we compute the slope, intercept, minimum, maximum value, and the correlated values, we'll display them using we'll display the output, which is a number of guests, using the equation y, that is equal to m times start time plus intercept, and we'll round the figure to 2 decimal points, and we'll also display the start time. Along with that, we'll display the case where if the input value is ranges between the minimum time and the maximum time, which we've calculated here, then the value is interpolated, else it is extrapolated. And we'll save this output as analytics, and we'll also display the correlation, that is a correlated value which we calculated here. So we taking the values from both the parent as well as the child tables, and here we are combining joining both the tables using the primary key, this jockey id, which is a foreign key to the function table, and we are giving this output as eq, which stands for equation. And nextly, we have to predict the output of the trained linear regression model, for which the input values of start time hold 20, 3, 14, and 24. And we'll combine all these input values or these rows using the union all function, and we'll sort the output by the start time. So when we run the query, the output looks like this. So here, when we input the value as 3 for the start time, the model predicts that the number of guests who attends an event would be around 1145. And the correlation between the start time and the predicted output is 0.01. And the analytics here, it's interpolated, which means the model is given an input value which ranges between the minimum and the maximum value. It doesn't exceed the range, so it is interpolated for all the input values, because the start time of the records hold between 1 and 24, and the input value also ranges between 1 and 24. Therefore, all these records are interpolated. Similarly, for start time as 14, the model predicts that the number of guests would be 1153 approximately, and so on. So this is how you can train a linear regression model in SQL. Thank you.